We all start university thinking, oh, it's gonna be so productive. I'm gonna wake up every day at 4 a.m, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna take a cold shower, I'm gonna study for 9 hours, then I'm gonna come home, then I'm gonna read a book, and then I'm gonna go to bed. But when you actually get to uni, you spend the first month just figuring out how to live on your own, and then the rest of the year catching up on lectures. This is what happened to me, and I'm now 8 weeks behind on linear algebra, and my exams are next month. So in this video, I'm gonna experience the 7 levels of cramming whilst explaining a new study hack on every level, and stick around to the end because level 7 is where the real suffering begins. Level 1, setup and mosque. Over the next 24 hours, I'm gonna be doing nothing but studying. No sleeping, no chatting with mates, and even no internet. But to prepare, if I'm gonna truly go off the grid for 24 hours, then I need to print study materials. So this is the setup. I've got a big whiteboard, I've got paper, but I'm actually not gonna study here yet. I'm gonna go to the mosque, okay? Because I ain't missing my salah. After finishing my prayers, before I went home, I needed to buy something that would give me the energy I need to get through the night with no sleep. No, I'm not talking about coffee or energy drink, because those give me diarrhea. I'm talking about 90% dark chocolate, because just 100 grams of this contains 1,185 milligrams of theobromine, which gives you a more sustained energy boost throughout the day, and 106 milligrams of caffeine, which is the same as a large cup of coffee. But it's better than a cup of coffee because 1,185 milligrams of theobromine lasts longer, improves focus, improves blood flow, increases alertness, and gives you even a mild euphoria. Level 2, false confidence. After finishing my first meal, and yes, I prepared meals so I don't have to do any cooking, I had only 4 hours left to finish week 3 of linear algebra, and I hadn't even made it through week 1. I thought at the start of this challenge that I was going to catch up on 8 weeks of linear algebra, but it turns out that I'm already behind pace. It is now 3 a.m. and I have just finished part 1 of the 6 parts of linear algebra. Now's about the time where I start eating dark chocolate to try and lift my spirits, because if there's one thing that makes me feel happy, it's putting something long, hard, and brown in my mouth. I'll also use a productivity hack called the micro deadline trick. You see, your brain hates big tasks, but it can easily handle small ones. So rather than telling yourself, I've got to finish this whole textbook in the next 16 hours, set micro deadlines. I've got to finish 1 page in 15 minutes, and another page in 15 minutes, and so on. Level 3, Valley of Despair. The first wave of optimism has passed now, and it's probably not going to come back until the very end of the challenge. Bye optimism! They'll be replaced by other isms such as pessimism, nihilism, racism. And what's worse is that I've started hallucinating. Around 4 a.m, I was taking a poo, and because I live alone, I left the door slightly open, and I could swear that for a second, I saw someone walking past the bathroom door. Again, I live alone. It kind of reminds me of that story of a doorkeeper called Philibert Asper, who out of curiosity ventured into the Paris catacombs, which is an underground labyrinth of dead bodies. The story goes that he went in there and dropped a key, and as he ventured deeper in order to look for the key, he ended up getting lost and his lantern went out. He was now plunged into complete darkness with no way out, and the only thing that he could do was just wander around to try and look for some light source to guide him to an exit. After days of wandering around, he eventually died in the Paris catacombs, only to be found years later. But just before his death, whilst likely being under extreme dehydration and sleep deprivation and being in complete darkness, he was likely experiencing hallucinations much worse than the ones I experience. And I can't even begin to imagine how scary that would be. Level 4, the second wind. Once the sun rose, I decided to go outside to wake my body up whilst reviewing flashcards, of course, because the grind don't stop. And it actually worked. The morning walk plus the dark chocolate gave me a second wind of energy, but not focus. I'm starting to realize that after about 8 hours of studying any longer is useless, because now my attention span is less than a minute and my brain has the processing power of a Tesco microwave. So the study hack I'm going to use is called cognitive shifting. The idea is simple. If your brain's too fried to do heavy problem solving, don't stop studying, just switch to a different type of work that uses a different part of your brain. Simple. Level 5, slowing down. Using this strategy, I was able to keep studying, but I was going through my notes much slower than before because I was constantly switching between my notes, my flashcards, and my assignment questions. But the important thing is I kept on studying, even though my eyes had that tingly feeling you get after you've been awake for 24 hours and your body's like, dude, just go to sleep. It turns out that each hour of sleep lost corresponds to a 0.07 decrease in end of term GPA, which means this one video might decrease my GPA by about 0.6. Thankfully though, with Dhuhr time coming up, I had an excuse to go outside and get to the mosque. And when I came back, I had a new motivation. Level 6. Insanity. I don't know whether it was because the end was in sight or I'd actually gone a little bit insane, but with just 4 hours left of the challenge, I plowed through my notes almost as fast as when I first started. This is proof that I'm a mega procrastinator because even though I had the energy left within me to study in the morning, I only started focusing again when the deadline was just a couple hours away. What I should have done to avoid procrastinating was utilizing the finish line trick. If you've got a deadline to hit, like let's say you need to write an essay this week, don't say, I'll write the essay when I get home tonight. Instead, say, I'll write the conclusion of the essay first when I get home tonight, and if I feel like writing the rest of it, then I will do. This trick works because once you know the destination, the rest of the work feels less chaotic and purposeful. You're also further reducing friction by telling yourself you're only going to write the conclusion rather than saying you'll write the whole thing today. Level 7. This is where I put my studying to the test. Judgment day. Or, judgment hour. After being awake for 27 hours and studying continuously for the past 23 hours, and yes, that includes studying whilst eating and even on the toilet, I'm taking the flashcards outside for a final test. A run, 2 rules, and absolutely no mercy. No stopping or walking until I complete all my flashcards, and every flashcard that I get wrong, I have to do 5 burpees. When I started my run, I pulled out my first flashcard and my brain sort of just didn't work. It was really weird. For the first minute, it was like I was suddenly brain dead and all I could think about was sleeping. But thankfully, my brain decided to wake up and I started flicking through them one by one, step by step. In the first half of the run, the physical part was easy because I barely had to do any burpees yet. And it also helps that I'm down 10 kilograms, but I need to start bulking again because my 17-year-old self could probably kick the crap out of me right now. Speaking of crap, there was loads of poo on the road, which I guess just adds to the punishment of having to drop and do 5 burpees. But that was nothing compared to what happened next because, of course, it started to rain. My flashcards were getting wet, my clothes were getting wet, my hands were drenched in muddy, pooey water every time I dropped to do 5 burpees. It was a nightmare. I was just begging for it to end, and eventually the rain subsided and the sun started shining again. And there was even a nice little rainbow to keep me company. Doing a challenge like this is a little bit dangerous because being awake for 27 hours means that my heart rate is already high, the theobromine from the chocolate also raises my heart rate, and running whilst doing burpees massively raises my heart rate even further. What's the worst thing that could happen? All jokes aside, cardiovascular diseases are the leading cause of death worldwide, taking an estimated 17.9 million lives each year. That's why I've set up a GoFundMe for the British Heart Foundation to help support people suffering from heart disease worldwide. I think you guys can raise £1,000 by clicking the link in the description. Once I'd finished my flashcards, I was drenched in sweat and breathing like a pug having a panic attack. But at least I'd finished the challenge without dying. Woohoo! Yeah! I ran a total of 8 kilometers and did 81 burpees, which means I got 14 flashcards wrong out of the 41 flashcards total, with 1 extra burpee for good measure. And before you ask, no, I didn't finish 8 weeks of linear algebra, I only managed 4. If you want to see my study setup in more detail, then click this video, otherwise piss off.